All right, welcome in everyone. It's time for the deep dive, where we take your sources and really dive deep into them.
That's right.
No extra stuff, just straight to the core insights, the stuff that you, the learner, really need. And today, well, we're tackling the world of personal finance, the Dave Ramsey way.
Yep, Dave Ramsey.
We've got this fascinating YouTube transcript from, let me see, it's called Living Old Shame. And it's really something. I mean, millions have found his advice life-changing.
Absolutely.
So our mission, if you will, is to break down his key strategies, how to build wealth, take control of your money, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and what strikes me right off the bat is how much ground this conversation covers. It's not just the basics. We're going deep.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking those famous baby steps, the foundation of Ramsey's whole philosophy, but then it goes beyond that. We get into budgeting, prioritizing investments, those tough decisions about education costs,
Right.
and even, those subtle social pressures that can really affect how we spend.
It's everywhere, isn't it? It's like you can't escape it.
Everywhere.
And you know what I think is so great about Ramsey's approach? It's not just some theory he came up with, sitting in an ivory tower. These baby steps, they came from real life, from helping people climb out of debt, build a secure future.
Years of experience, real people.
Exactly. So should we just jump right into those baby steps?
Let's do it. What's interesting is how these steps came to be. See, at first, Ramsey just focused on getting out of debt, period. But then he realized something.
What's that?
People needed a little cushion, a safety net. Even a small emergency could derail everything.
Oh, I see. They'd slip right back into debt.
Exactly. So that's how baby step one was born.
Okay, so baby step one, save $1,000 fast. Now, this isn't like a full emergency fund, right?
No, it's more like a starter emergency fund.
Yeah.
A little buffer to handle those small, unexpected expenses without wiping you out. Prevents those small bumps from becoming big craters,
Yeah. Right. Keep the momentum going. So then what? What's next?
Well, next comes baby step two, the one everyone's heard of. The debt snowball.
Ah, yes. The debt snowball.
Now, I'm curious, can you explain how it actually works? And, maybe more importantly, why go for the smallest debts first? I mean, wouldn't it make more sense to tackle the ones with the highest interest rates?
You would think so, right? Purely mathematically.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with the debt snowball. You list out all your debts, not including the house, from smallest balance to largest. You keep making minimum payments on all of them, but then any extra money you have, you throw it all at that smallest debt. And once it's gone, boom, you roll that entire payment you were making onto the next smallest debt.
I see.
And you keep doing that. Now, Ramsey's not just focused on interest here. It's about psychology. Those quick wins, they're huge.
Motivation, yeah.
You get that momentum, that feeling of accomplishment. It keeps you going when you're facing a mountain of debt.
It's like a game, almost. Makes you want to
Yeah.
keep playing.
Exactly. It's way more about behavior change than just the numbers.
So true.
And as you knock out those smaller debts, guess what? You free up cash flow, more room to breathe in your budget.
And then that leads right into baby step three.
Which is?
Fully funding that emergency fund. We're talking 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses.
Right.
Now you've got a real safety net.
Talk about peace of mind.
Right. This is where people really start to feel that financial stress melt away. No more living paycheck to paycheck. No more panicking over every little unexpected cost.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've tackled the immediate stuff. What comes after that solid emergency fund is in place?
Then we move into baby steps 4, 5, and 6. Now, these are tackled at the same time, kind of simultaneously, but it's a different kind of focus. It's not just about eliminating debt anymore.
All right, let's break those down. So step 4.
Step 4 is investing 15% of your gross household income for retirement. That's every month, consistently.
Gotcha.
Step 5 is saving for your kids' college, if you have kids, of course. And Ramsey acknowledges that this one's going to vary a lot depending on the family. Some people want to pay for everything, some people don't.
Right, different strokes for different folks.
Exactly. And finally, step 6 is going all in on paying off your home mortgage. He actually mentions that the average person following his plan get their house paid off in about 7 or 8 years. Think about that.
Wow, that's way faster than the typical 30-year mortgage.
Way faster. It really shows you what focus effort can do once you're not drowning in other debt.
That's incredible. So what's the final step? The grand finale?
Baby step 7, my friend. This is where you shift gears to building real wealth and becoming, as Ramsey puts it, outrageously generous. He talks about how many people reach $1 million net worth by this stage.
$1 million. That's incredible.
It is. And it shows you the power of following this plan. So, listener, as we're talking about these baby steps, think about where you're at. Which of these steps speaks to you the most right now?
That's a great point. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about Ramsey's investing advice. He's got a very specific order of operations, so to speak.
He does. And it's all about maximizing your benefits while avoiding those missed opportunities. The first thing, absolutely non-negotiable, is taking advantage of your employer's 401k match or any similar plan.
Right, right.
It's free money, essentially. And it's pre-tax, so you're saving on taxes too. Not taking full advantage is like leaving cash on the table.
Who would say no to free money?
Nobody in their right mind. So after you've secured that employer match, where do you go next?
I'm all ears.
Ramsey says Roth accounts should be next. This could be a Roth 401k, Roth 403b, or a Roth IRA.
Roth IRA.
The big advantage with Roth is the taxes. You contribute after-tax dollars, but all the growth and withdrawals in retirement. Tax-free.
Ah, that's the beauty of it.
It is. And finally, after the Roth, then you can utilize those traditional pre-tax retirement accounts. So the order is employer match first, Roth second for tax-free growth, traditional third for the immediate tax deduction. Simple, right?
Makes perfect sense. Now, what about the actual investments inside these accounts?
Well, Ramsey generally recommends a mix of mutual funds. He talks about growth funds, growth and income funds, aggressive growth funds, and international funds. A diversified portfolio.
Yeah. So he's not really into picking individual stocks or day trading or anything like that.
No, not at all. He believes in long-term, consistent investing. And get this, he even strongly recommends automating your contributions.
What does that mean? Like setting up automatic transfers?
Exactly. That way the money's invested before you even have a chance to spend it.
Oh, I see. It takes the temptation out of the equation.
Exactly. It's all about discipline, building wealth on autopilot. So let's move on to something we all deal with, managing our day-to-day money.
The nitty-gritty.
Yeah, and Ramsey is, shall we say, a passionate advocate for budgeting.
He's pretty vocal about it, that's for sure.
He truly believes that if you don't have a spending plan, you're going to overspend. It's almost inevitable. And he points out how easy it is to overlook those smaller, recurring expenses.
Like subscriptions, you mean?
Exactly. Or even things like those less frequent, but still significant costs, like, your kids' activities, holiday gifts, birthdays.
Those can really add up, can't they? It's like death by 1,000 cuts.
Absolutely. And that's where that fully funded emergency fund comes back into play.
Right, like a safety net.
Exactly. Ramsey sees it as a way to protect yourself financially. Once you've got that emergency fund and you're following a budget, you're not constantly worried about those unexpected costs. You're prepared.
So you're saying the need to actually use the emergency fund goes down because you're planning ahead.
Exactly. It's about bringing order to your finances, knowing where your money's going. He even told a story about how he's had a fully funded emergency fund for years and barely ever needed to touch it.
Wow, that's impressive.
It really speaks to the power of discipline and having that safety net.
Now, speaking of the emergency fund, there's that guideline of 3 to 6 months of living expenses. But Ramsey's got some nuance there depending on your income.
Oh, interesting. How so? Well, he says if you've got really stable income, like say you're a teacher or government employee, you might be okay with a smaller emergency fund, maybe closer to 3 months.
But if your income is less predictable,
then that larger 6-month cushion is probably a better idea. If you're self-employed or work on commission, things like that.
makes sense. More protection for when things are uncertain.
Exactly. Okay, let's talk about something that can be a real challenge for families. Education costs, especially private schools.
That's a big one.
It is. And Ramsey is really insightful here. He recognizes that a lot of communities, like the Jewish community, place a huge value on private education. They want their kids to have that values-based learning, the religious and cultural aspects.
Right, it's not just about academics.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Ramsey also points out that there's not always a ton of evidence showing that private schools are always academically superior to good public schools.
That's an interesting point.
It is. He's not saying private schools are bad. Not at all. But he wants people to really think about the cost. He mentioned it could be 20 to 35% of a family's income.
That's a huge chunk.
It is. And families need to consider the trade-offs. Can they afford private school and still save for retirement? It's about making informed choices.
Right, aligning your spending with your values, but also being realistic.
Absolutely. Now, another area where spending can get out of hand is celebrations. like bar mitzvahs and weddings.
Oh, yeah, those can be huge.
They can. And Ramsey's advice here is pretty straightforward. Don't go overboard. He stresses that those big, extravagant parties aren't a religious requirement,
Right.
and he warns against borrowing money for them, especially using home equity. That's dangerous.
It can be really tempting, though, to try to keep up with everyone else.
I know. But Ramsey has a great message for families who might be struggling financially. He talks about being content with what you have, not trying to keep up with the Joneses.
That's a valuable lesson no matter what your income is.
Absolutely. And he even suggests teaching that to your kids. It's about building healthy financial habits early on.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about another big financial decision, buying a house. Ramsey's got some pretty specific guidelines for this.
He does. He says you should aim for at least 20% down, a 15-year fixed-rate mortgage, and a monthly payment that's less than 25% of your take-home pay.
That's a lot to consider.
It is. And he knows it can be tough, especially in places like New York City where housing is so expensive. But these guidelines are based on a really important principle, financial margin.
Mino.
Meaning you need some breathing room in your budget. If your house payment is eating up more than 25% of your income, you're going to be house poor. You won't have much left for anything else.
So you might end up in debt just to cover basic expenses.
Exactly. He also clarifies that the 20% down payment is mainly to avoid something called PMI,
What's that?
private mortgage insurance. It protects the lender, not you. And it adds to your monthly payment. So if you can put down 20%, you can avoid that extra cost.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about the 15-year mortgage? Seems like a lot of people go for 30 years.
I know. But Ramsey is all about building wealth faster. That shorter mortgage means you pay less interest overall, and you own your house outright sooner. He often points out that a lot of wealthy people have paid off homes.
So it's not just about having a lower monthly payment, it's about the long game.
Exactly. Now, there's this common argument that mortgage payments can be similar to rent.
Right, I've heard that.
But Ramsey points out that owning a home comes with extra costs, like maintenance and repairs. And if you buy a house before you're financially ready, you could end up in a tough spot.
Like if you don't have that emergency fund or you're still paying off other debts.
Exactly. It's better to be prepared than to jump in too soon. Now, let's switch gears to something a lot of couples deal with.
What's that?
When one person is all about budgeting, but the other one isn't. Ramsey's got some good advice for that.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Right. So he suggests trying it out together for 90 days. Just commit to budgeting as a couple for 3 months and see what happens.
That's not a huge commitment.
Nope. And his whole philosophy is that financial success isn't about luck. It's about being intentional. It's about making consistent choices over time.
Makes sense.
And you know what he says happens when couples budget together? Their communication improves. They talk more about their values, their dreams, their fears. He even says that men speak budget, meaning that it gives them a way to open up about these things.
Interesting.
And when people start using budgeting tools, like the Every Dollar app he recommends, something really cool happens. They see where their money's actually going.
Which can be eye-opening, to say the least.
It can be a shock. But sometimes that's what it takes to make a change. And often people end up feeling like they got a raise just by plugging those little spending leaks.
Right, they're not actually making more money. They're just managing it better.
Exactly. It's about taking control, feeling empowered. Now, Ramsey does admit that those first few months of budgeting can be tough.
It's an adjustment for sure.
It is. But he says it gets easier over time, more effective. Like anything else, it takes practice.
Right. Practice makes perfect.
And it's about building that financial literacy as a couple, working together towards shared goals. So as we wrap things up here, there's this great part where Ramsey is asked what advice he'd give to his 25-year-old self.
Oh, that's always an interesting question.
And his answer is really insightful. He says he'd tell himself to stop looking for a quick fix, a hack, to solve all his money problems.
We all want that magic solution.
I know, right? But Ramsey's saying that real success, lasting success, comes from consistent effort over time. It's about the small choices you make every day.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. And get this, he also emphasizes the importance of character development. He believes that people with strong character, people with integrity and discipline, they'll outperform those who are just smart but lack those traits.
It's about more than just intelligence. It's about who you are as a person.
Exactly. And he's got a message for people of faith, too. He reminds them to stick to their core principles, to let those guide their decisions.
It's like a compass pointing you in the right direction.
Exactly. And finally, the conversation touches on Ramsey's views on the government and spending.
Oh, I'm sure he has some strong opinions on that.
He does. He's pretty concerned about government overspending and what he sees as a lack of discipline. He says we've forgotten how to say no.
It's like those basic financial principles apply on a larger scale, too.
Exactly. You can't just keep spending more than you brought in, whether you're a family or a government. So as we finish up this deep dive into Dave Ramsey's world, what are the big takeaways? What do you want the listener to remember?
Well, I think the core of it is having a plan, a step-by-step approach. Those baby steps are crucial. Get out of debt, build that emergency fund, invest consistently.
Right. And don't forget the budget. That's like the foundation of everything.
Absolutely. And it's all based on common sense, not some complicated scheme. It's about building real financial security long term.
So listener, take a moment to reflect on what you heard. What resonates with you? What surprised you? Maybe there's something you can start doing today to improve your own finances.
And here's a final thought for you to consider. Maybe true financial freedom isn't just about how much money you make. Maybe it's about having control over your money, being intentional with your spending. Maybe it's about having the freedom to prioritize the things that truly matter to you.
What do you think, listener?
Food for thought.
Food for thought.